Hello, viewers. You're welcome to another session of Broken Not Shattered. It's another wonderful day here, and I would like to allow my guest to introduce herself. Jackie, the stage is yours. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Obi. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Jackie Duda. I live in the States in Frederick, Maryland, and I am a septic shock survivor and chronic illness patient and all those things wrapped up in between. And I want to thank you again, Obi, for having me here today. Your podcast is awesome.
You're welcome, Jackie. Now, before we go further, my name is Obi for those who are just joining us for the first time, and I'm going to be your host today. So, Jackie, let's go right into it. Tell us about May 22nd, 2021. How did it all start?
Oh, I just had been having a lot of pain, mostly in my left hip. So I thought I had some sort of a orthopedic problem going on. And I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. The pain was that bad. And I'm disabled and I have chronic conditions. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I have POTS. I have Crohn's, you name it. So left hip pain wasn't that unusual until the pain was so bad that, yes, it wouldn't let me sleep. And by morning, I couldn't feel my left leg. Well, I could feel it. It felt very heavy. I couldn't move it. So I woke up my husband and I said something is going on with my leg. And they called EMS. We also noticed I was running a fever. And so EMS came and got me and they took me to the emergency room. It was up until then, it was a pretty normal day because I'd been to the emergency room a lot, with all my conditions and all my problems. And so it wasn't until they did a CAT scan of my stomach that they saw that I had a colon perforation. And because of that perforation, bacteria was getting in and places it shouldn't have been. And my body decided to start fighting it and septic shock set in. And sepsis is what develops when you have an infection, a bad infection, and your body's trying to fight it, but your immune response goes haywire. It's dysregulated and it can shut down your organs. And it started to shut down my respiratory system. And they had to put a ventilator in, which I was awake for. And I'll never forget that, ever.
For those of our audience who may not understand what the situation there is, can you explain the condition in details for them so they could understand?
Yes. So my colon perforated because of something called diverticulitis. And a lot of people, I'm 62. A lot of people over 50 have what they call diverticula in their intestines. And it's not a big problem. They're like diverticula, or like when your intestines have little pouches in them or little bulges. And diverticulitis, however, is when one of those pouches or bulges gets infected, and mine got infected and it perforated. So I literally had a hole in my colon and things started to leak and it made me very sick because of the bacteria. It was E. coli bacteria, and it made me sick. And my body wanted to get rid of that bacteria. So our immune systems try to do that by fighting it. But when something called sepsis, when that develops, it's because your immune system doesn't operate the right way. It kind of goes into overdrive. And that's what causes you to get really, really sick and your organs start failing. So apparently, I don't remember. It was hazy in the emergency room because I was kind of starting to go in and out of consciousness, but remembering things like difficult, I was having trouble breathing. So they put a ventilator in, and that's terrifying. That's a device, really, honest to goodness, it looks like a vacuum cleaner hose. and they put that in your mouth all the way into your lungs, so that it can deliver oxygen right into your lungs and make you breathe. And so I was breathing, obviously, after that, but I was terrified because you can't talk because you have that ventilator in your mouth. And I couldn't tell, like, the ER staff around me, I couldn't tell them I was still awake, and couldn't see where my husband was. And it was just me lying there flat on a gurney and listening to the doctors. Like, the doctor was talking to me, and he was telling me I was going to need surgery and they were going to have to remove some of my colon. And at that point, at some point, I started to get really bad, and I started to go into not just respiratory failure, but heart failure. And they said to the EMS drivers who were actually still there, they were standing out in the hall by my husband, and the doctor is in the room with me, and the doctor calls out and says, how long to drive her to Baltimore? Because our wonderful city of Baltimore has some of the best medical hospitals there, and they have a place called shock trauma, which takes a lot of trauma patients, and they literally bring us back to life. So the doctor asked them if they could drive me there, and the ambulance driver said it would take an hour 20, and the doctor said, she doesn't have that, call a helicopter. So they called a pilot, they got a helicopter to land on the roof and come get me, and then flew me to Baltimore. Only took about 20, 25 minutes that way. And then I was there, and the staff were ready to take me into the operating room, where they then proceeded to remove some of my colon, because that was the root cause of the infection, and they had to get it out of there. If they were going to treat my sepsis and treat my infection, part of my colon had to go.
Wow, this is serious. So Jackie, I could imagine what it was for you in that helicopter and when you were finally diagnosed of the situation. What basically was going through your mind at that moment?
I thought I was a goner. I really did. I was in the emergency room. I was still in the emergency room, and I was still conscious. And I just thought, well, this is it. I mean, that's literally what I was thinking. Well, this is it. And we realized that, okay, my time here is done. I'm done. And that was about the time that they delivered some wonderful medication, I'm sure, but I went unconscious. And I didn't expect to open my eyes again. I really didn't. And I was kind of surprised when I heard a woman's voice in a very dark room. Like, I mean, I really couldn't see anything around me, but I could hear like the beeping and noises like from the ICU in the background. And the woman was my colorectal surgeon who had just operated on me. And she said, you were really sick. We didn't think you were going to make it. And I just kind of nodded because I was just so drugged up, I guess, at that time. And I just kind of nodded, and I went back to sleep, or fell back. I was unconscious until the next morning, really, when I realized it was sunny and I was in a strange room, and that room was the ICU.
Wow. So if I may ask you, what basically gave you the strength to stay true?
At first, I don't even know. At first, I don't even know, but I was thinking of my husband, thinking of my kids. I still had my youngest daughter was like still in college. And my other two, my son and my other daughter, had just graduated from college. I mean, I was literally at my daughter's graduation, like 12 days before this happened. And it was thinking of them like all the time. And I thought, I got to get better for them, because I'm not done here yet. I want to see what they're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So the truth is this: there is no how this did not leave a trauma with you at that moment. And so, what was the trauma like for you, your family, and your loved ones?
Oh, my family was pretty traumatized about it. Yeah, they gladly tell anybody about that. You know, especially my youngest, when she had to go back to school in August. She had to go back to college for her junior year. She said it was the worst year of her life. It was hard. She was studying chemistry and she was worried about me. And, you know, and my husband was kind of like, he was disoriented. My daughters said that they never saw him the way he was when he came home from the emergency room that morning, because the doctors, after they put me in the helicopter, they told him that I was going to be in surgery for a long time. And it was during the height of COVID then. So visits were restricted. And they said, you won't make it to visit today. So just go home and we'll call, you know, the surgeon's going to call you. And he went home, and my daughters, like, they didn't know what was going on. They said he was acting strange. He was barely talking. And he was really in shock, I think. He was, you know, because all those times before I went to the emergency room, everybody knew I'd make it back. You know, it was like, mom's in the emergency room. They're probably going to admit her. They're going to treat her. She's going to come home. But my kids say now that they said, well, that was the one time we didn't think you were coming home, especially when one of my daughters looked up sepsis, because my husband managed to get that much out, I guess, and said, you know, she has sepsis or something. So the daughter who just graduated, she Googled it and she went, oh my God, this is bad.
We're going to go on a very short break. And when we're back, you're going to give us some more. I believe it's getting more interesting here. Hello, guys. Once again, this is Broken Not Shattered. And here we just share our stories to save life, to encourage people. So if you're joining us for the first time, please do well to follow us on all social media platforms, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and on Spotify. We're also on TikTok. And also do well to subscribe and then share the link so that your friends and family will have the privilege of benefiting from the platforms as well. Today with us is Jackie, and Jackie is a resilient survivor. Jackie, your story is so interesting and mind blowing. And looking at how you survived, I remember a few years ago, I had an accident that changed my perception about life. And that brings me to say for every trauma and challenge definitely comes with a perspective. So in your case, what was that perspective to life it gave you?
That it's very precious, that we don't have the time that we think we do, and that you better make good use of the time that you have. Like, I mean, even in seconds, I sit in, and I mean, I'm a writer, so I'm an observer anyway, but I'm very highly observant now, like of if I'm sitting there on the beach with my kids, I'm just soaking it in. I'm really like hyper observant of the waves and the laughter and what people are talking about. And I just kind of want to grab that moment and steal that moment and just, you know, embrace it and put it in here like forever. You know, it's just grabbing moments. These moments come, they're so fleeting, and I want to capture them all and really make any time that like I'm with a friend or I'm with anyone, I want, like, I listen a lot more, and I don't look at my watch, or I don't look at the time, or I don't, because, you know, time is, it's kind of irrelevant because we're here and then maybe we're not here the next moment. And that was kind of what I was faced with that morning. I didn't have a choice. I had no control. I was either going to be here or I wasn't going to be here. And I thought I wasn't going to be here.
So in other words, you're saying life is not promised.
Right.
So make use of every opportunity you have and make the best out of every opportunity you have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, it's, you know, we are given the gift of this life on this planet. for whatever reason, we're here and we owe it to ourselves and all of those in our circle and all those that we interact with to just make it mean something, make it, and it doesn't have to be anything big or phenomenal or, oh my God, you're world famous. It's just focus on what matters, and what matters really is us, human beings, talking to each other, enjoying each other, laughing, and having experiences together.
I always have the belief that we are created for humanity, and the best we can do is to be nice to humanity. And I think for me, that is just the best of this life, just be nice to humanity. But moving away from these, you know, I see survivors and challenges. What are those challenges that survivors go through that you wish to make known to people?
Well, for sepsis survivors, as well as I'm sure a lot of survivors, cancer survivors, everybody, the trauma makes you scared at first, like really terrified that it can happen again, or terrified that, any medical procedure you have done after that can go wrong because you lost that control the first time. I felt like my body betrayed me. It gave me mixed signals. I had a hip pain and I had a hole in my gut. I mean, it wasn't being entirely truthful with me. So I didn't know, like, I think survivors can be unsure and very frightened and very I was terrified to even have them draw my blood after that, because my veins were kind of blown out from all the lines and all the IVs and all the things that I had in them while I was in the hospital for so long. So even just going to the lab to get a blood draw was agonizing. It was terrifying. It's better now, but I mean, it's 4 years later now. So it takes a long time and we can't rush it. Like, no one can rush you to deal with the trauma or to get you through the trauma. You're going to get through it in your own sweet time when that time is right. And it's always going to come back. Like, it doesn't leave. It doesn't, like, my PTSD isn't gone. It's not cured. It's there, but I'm walking with it better. We're not so much enemies now. We're figuring out how to coexist with one another, me and my PTSD.
So speaking to that, you went in and out. So what was it like getting in the second time?
Oh, you mean to get a second chance when I woke up and I realized I was still on this planet? It was amazing. I was thankful, but I was also very upset because I was in so much pain. I mean, the physical pain was astronomical. And I had to go through a second surgery because the doctors had to place a colostomy, which is a temporary thing for some people. Some people have permanent ones, but it's people who've had like colon cancer or something where they've had to have their colon removed. And I had an ostomy because my colon was so badly damaged. So they had to kind of reconnect things. And 7 months later, I had to go back to have it reconnected like the way it was before. And I was terrified of that surgery. So it's sort of like I existed within a realm of, boy, I'm glad to be here. And boy, I really hate being here because I was so weak. And I mean, I had to learn to walk again and the struggle was so hard and everything hurt so bad that it was hard to physically be. I guess mentally I was okay with it, but physically, no, not.
So Jackie, in one of your statements, you once said for survivors that they are best off a feather. And I want to ask you, what does the community of survivors mean to you?
It's, I often call like my lady sepsis survivors, I'll call them a sepsis sister, and the men, I call them a sepsis brother. And to me, it really is like we have a community of like minds that understand what we've all been through, and we all walk that journey, and we're still here. And, I really enjoy embracing that community, my community of sepsis survivors, because I really believe in when we all join together, we're stronger. When our voices all come together, they're louder. And so I treasure my sepsis survivor community very deeply. They're like family.
Yeah, interesting. And so, Jackie, we've spoken about a lot of things. And what I'm about to ask you somehow may have been touched, but I want it to be out there in clear terms. You know, what was life for you before the incident, and what did life become after the incident?
Well, living with chronic conditions and disabilities, life before the incident was pretty difficult. And I, struggled a lot, and I didn't really feel like I was getting anywhere, and that I had a lot of falters and falls. And it just, of course, I love my kids, and, they did interesting things, and they were in college, and that was exciting. But for my own health and my own self, it was very challenging. And then septic shock came along and almost took me out. And then I had to relearn all of the basics all over, on how to walk again, how to brush my teeth again. And now and I still struggle. I mean, I still have disabilities. I still have these chronic conditions, but I still struggle. But maybe it was all the rehab after sepsis taught me how to manage even my pre-existing conditions better. And I think, like I told you briefly before we got on the podcast, that I went to the pool this morning, and I love the water. I love the water is so healing for me. It provides me with pain relief for hours after I've been paddling around in it or exercising in it. It's helping to keep me strong. And I just, it's sunny out there right now, and life before the incident and after the incident, I feel it's sort of like taking off murky glasses and seeing all the colors brighter and better, and hearing the crickets, hearing the birds. I mean, you just soak it all in on a deeper level. That's how I've noticed a big difference. Every little thing matters, and it makes me so much happier.
I think, Jackie, that is a strong message. Every little thing matters. And if we're living here today and we do not have what else to live with, this message is strong. Every little thing matters. So, Jackie, we're going to move away a little and we're going to get into something which is broken, not shattered. What does that bring to your mind when you hear that? And how does that resonate with you?
Well, when you reached out to me, and I saw the title "Broken, Not Shattered," that resonated very deeply, because that exactly describes what I've been through. And again, with chronic illness and with surviving sepsis, it breaks you, and it can break you over and over again, and you can make progress, and then you can backslide again. But we're never really shattered. That name that you came up with, that's chef's kiss. It's great.
Thank you so much, Jackie. One interesting thing is, even at your age, there is so much strength in your voice. It's all over you, and I'm amazed by that. I think our viewers as well We'll be so happy and amazed to, listen to you talk and speak, such inspiring words to them. But Jackie, before we let you go, just few other little things we must, get to hear from you. Now you're gonna tell us how to reach out to Jackie, and then we'll have you answer another question before you let it go.
Mhm. Sure. Well, you can find me. I think that's how you find me was on Instagram. I'm on there
Yeah.
at Jackie's Journey 4. I love my Instagram. I love my followers, my DM with a lot of them. And, we just kind of, if we ever have to limp along through our days, again, like I
Yeah.
said, limp along together, putting your
Yeah.
arm virtually around someone else through the DMs and just, kind of co-miserating or whatever. It helps. It helps us all get through the day. So I'm on Instagram. I am on X. I'm on Blue Sky, Threads, and all that, and also on my LinkedIn, which is where I do a lot of my, business stuff related to my writing and my podcast. I do have a podcast called The 120 because of the hour 20 that I didn't have to make it to Baltimore by ambulance. So I just thought, I'm going to call it the 120 because that's the numbers. That's the thing I remember most from hearing from those doctors that morning in the ER. But those are the ways. And I do have a Substack.
Very, very interesting, Jackie. So Jackie, before we go, just give us one more word that you want the audience to take away from this discussion.
Never give up. Never give up. And even when you're in the heat of it, in the moment, and it feels like everything is miserable and lost and done, because I've been there. I have been there mentally. Oh my God, I have been there. Never give up. Reach out to someone if you can, and know that you are enough. We all matter. We are all valuable on this planet. All of us has some reason for being here, and you matter. And that's what I want your listeners to remember. Tell yourself that all the time. You matter.
You matter. So, Jackie, on Broken Dogs Chatted, we have a culture of drop off questions. So, the last guest was on the show dropped off the question for the next guest, irrespective of who the guest will be. And so, we're going to ask you the question. There is no right or wrong answer to the question. And then you're going to answer, and then you give us a drop off question for the next guest.
Oh, I
And now
love
this is
that.
the yeah. So this is the question: is if there is one thing in your past that you can change, what is it and why?
Wow, that's a good question. Okay, this answer is going to sound maybe sound dumb, but it's not. I wouldn't change anything because I believe that things are supposed to not necessarily happen for a reason, but we're on a timeline where life happens and we're supposed to learn from it, good and bad. And I don't know if it would be even possible, but I did lose my daughter 19 years ago. We did lose our oldest. So maybe I would interrupt the timeline to change that. So she'd still be here.
My condolence. Stay strong. So, what would be your question for the next guest?
Let's see. If you had all the money and resources in the world, what would you do or create to help survivors who've been broken and to give them hope. No money limit.
Yeah. Wow. Jackie, I must say, it's been an interesting time with you in the studio. I really can say how happy I am having you in the studio. But I want to say from my heart of hearts and on behalf of every member of this, we want to say thank you for stopping by and spending this little time with us. And I want to plead with you, please stay tuned and be accessible as you've always been so that we can always reach out to you to have more sessions with you. Jackie, thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you for having me so much, Obi. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. So, in our last and famous word, we'll say peace, love, and more grace. See you next time, Jackie. Bye.
Bye.